So I wanted to begin by greeting us all, and greeting our bodies that we just stretched, and greeting whatever is living inside, taking a moment to say hi to whatever feeling or emotion is present for you at the moment. Whatever is in the body. Knowing that we are co-creating a space where everything that is living inside of us is welcome. There isn't anything that isn't. And whether we feel that welcoming or not, no problem. We're offering that at the beginning of our journey for ourselves and then for each other. Whatever is living inside of you. Can we go to gallery? Thanks. Whatever is living inside of you, whatever's living inside of me, Mel here to my left, welcome. Because I know that's the deepest aspiration in our hearts, right? To live in a space where everything that is living inside of us is welcome. In this welcoming, I also wanted to acknowledge that we here at Dena are living on unceded territory of the Chimaweva and the Kahila and Mojave indigenous peoples. As we say hi to each other, I wanted to invite us also to say hi to our ancestors and to the people in our lives, whether more immediately or when we were younger, who really supported us and helped us to stay connected in some way to the beautiful parts of ourselves, or who were supportive of us, or who listened to us. I had a teacher who stood up for me in the staff room when everyone wanted to expel me. And so I include her as one of my ancestors. And when I think about us all from all the different places we come from, gathering here, I feel the presence of the wider community of our ancestors. And so let's take a moment, each one of us, and if you'd like to put it in the chat as well, let's take a moment and call in, just see who comes into your heart and mind right now, giving thanks for their support in some way or another that allowed us to be here together, here in this retreat. And I wanted to, could you get a rattle from over there? And I just wanted to rattle for a moment to call and acknowledge the spirits of those who are living in other realms, as well as, let's just rattle together. Yeah, let's just so we're just going to rattle for a moment while we're giving thanks. And I'd like to include in those ancestors the spirit of the earth. and the waters, the air and the sun, to all the critters that have supported us with their lives or their life living with us, to the plants, to the great trees, the grandmother trees, to flowers, to all the herbs we take, acknowledging the wide circle that we're part of. Thank you. In Pali, the word for meditation is bhavana, which means to become. And in the context of the teachings, it is to become or to inhabit all the beautiful qualities that live inside of us that might not be fully awakened yet. Our generosity and our wisdom, our truthfulness, our discernment, our patience, our commitment to non-harming and to peace, our equanimity. And when I think about this invitation for us, this orienting to cultivate these energies inside of us, it feels like it's being in a room that was dark and then the light comes on. And suddenly we realize that where we felt alone or lonely and isolated, we're together. Or where we feel overwhelmed, we have support. Or where we feel confused, there's teachings. And that where we've lost the connection to ourselves, we see in these beautiful qualities that we actually are reclaiming our beauty, our place in life. And that the cultivation of these beautiful qualities is also the ways that we come together as a community and reflect back to each other that we are indeed beautiful. And that in this way we're giving one of the greatest gifts to each other by being here together, right? To reclaim back those spaces and knowing that we are not alone, that we are together, that there is support, that there is a path for strengthening, and that there is a path for awakening into the beauty that we are. Thank you. So then we, unless there are any questions, we're going to then enter into the formal beginning of our retreat by taking the Refuges and Precepts.
Thank you, Dena, and thanks to the tech team for all of this work and care. It's really amazing and touching. So thank you. And yeah, it's interesting to notice this moment of transitioning into the retreat. We may not have quite as full a sense of who we are as a group yet, but that will build with practice. And we call it a retreat, but it really also a moving toward. It's not just a pulling away. It's moving toward our lives, toward our experience, toward reclaiming our beauty, as Serena said, moving toward what is really here. And so to help with creating this space for exploration, for getting curious, noticing, practice, it helps to establish a container of support for ourselves. And this is something that we do together. We create this as a group, as a community, aligning our hearts, creating our own home of practice together. So in the traditional Buddhist retreat setting, we're invited to take the refuges. And so what does it mean to take refuge? I know that there are people in the group tonight who haven't sat a retreat like this before. So refuge is such an interesting and powerful word, and one of my teachers likes to say that we are always taking refuge in something, and I think it's interesting to consider that. Some of the places that we go for refuge may be quite helpful and resourcing, and some places are not so helpful. And this year, I know I've seen that up close in my own experience. It's so important to have places where we can rest our heart, true refuges. So in the tradition, the invitation is to take the refuges, and sometimes it's go for refuge. I actually like go for, so go for refuge to the Buddha, go for refuge to the Dharma, and go for refuge to the Sangha. So I wanted to spend a moment with each of these refuges. Sometimes they're called the triple gem, as it's a storehouse of wealth and beauty and power and resource for us. I go for refuge to the Buddha. So this is recalling and going for refuge to the life of the historical Buddha, a person just like us, a person who experienced liberation, pure freedom. And we share that same innate capacity to awaken, to become more and more free. Capacity to experience life with more joy, less suffering, more beauty. And we go for refuge to the aware and wise and luminous part of ourselves to sustain and guide us as we awaken and move toward the experience of greater freedom, that reclaiming process. So it's both external and internal. So then I go for refuge to the Dharma. And the Dharma means the teachings and the practices of the Buddha that the Buddha taught, the path that we follow and that we'll explore over the next 5 days, day by day. And it also means the nature of things, how it is, the universe unfolding before us. Can I take refuge in the way that things are, the way that things actually are? It's such a powerful question. And there's so much deep accepting and release in that refuge, a refuge of truthfulness. And then I go for refuge to the Sangha. I go for refuge to the community, to this community of practitioners right now. This one that we're creating together and that will unfold before us over the next 5 days. And really all of our practice communities, even if we aren't actively engaged in them, they're still supporting us. And also we can find refuge in the community of people like us who have practiced and lived and taught the Dharma for thousands of years, our ancestors on this path. And it's often said, no one can do this for me, and I can't do it alone. So as we practice in this physically distanced way, the Sangha can be such a support, and I've sat and participated in a number of retreats, and it's amazing how much support we can get just from each other's presence and the sharing that we'll do, and each other's practice. It's such a generous gift to show up, to be here, to offer your practice and your presence, and we can allow that to support us, support each other. So I'd like to just offer the 3 refuges again, just the words with some silence in between each one, and just some space to see how they land for you, how you relate to them now. And I know for some of us these are new, and for some of us we've taken or gone for refuge many, many times, but just noticing how it is for you today. I go for refuge to the Buddha. I go for refuge to the Dharma. I go for refuge to the Sangha. And then if you'd like, I'll offer each refuge, and if you'd like to repeat it aloud wherever you are right now, please feel welcome if that speaks to you. So just offer each refuge and then repeat to yourself if you'd like. I go for refuge to the Buddha. I go for refuge to the Dharma.
Go for refuge to the Dhamma.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
Thank you so much, Ian. That was one of the most beautiful ways to express the refuges that I've ever heard. So thank you so much for that beautiful opening, and kind of picking up on that notion of taking care of each other, and now supporting each other by really knowing that we go to refuge in the Sangha. Of the 3 jewels of Sangha is the one that I think is sort of the most important one in my personal experience. And so this evening I'd like to offer the precepts. And the precepts are known as these sort of ethical guidelines, these ways that we hold ourselves and our behavior in alignment to care for ourselves and each other's practice. It's sort of an entering into a social construct, not a social construct, a social contract with how we are going to be and hold each other. Recognizing our interconnectedness, our interdependence, that we belong to each other. We take these precepts to co-regulate, to attune to each other, so that we feel held and supported and buoyed in our practice. These precepts create a container that is safe enough for us to show up, to be able to lay down some of those guards that we've held so tightly around us, knowing that we've all come to this agreement to care for and look out for each other. And so the version that I really love starts with acknowledging our interdependence, knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined. I undertake the precept to protect life. And so often we think of this external life, the earth, animals, other beings. And yes, absolutely, all of those are included. And most importantly, we need to turn and tend to this one, sitting here. So how do we care for this one? And during our retreat, most of us are in our own homes. We are in a place that we can find comfort and ease in. And so I really invite you to care for yourself as deeply as you need to on this retreat. If the body needs to rest, lay down. If the body needs to get up and move around, do that. To make sure that you continue to nurture yourself, to hydrate yourself, to turn the camera off when you need to, so that the body can rest. So I really invite you to turn towards this one. Because when this one is cared for, we take care of our extended Sangha. Knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to be generous. And so how can we be generous to ourselves, to each other, while on this retreat together? And one way is to be generous with our time, knowing how long things take sometimes, knowing that if we need to tend to our family, that we create enough space for that so we can show back up in this container together. To make sure that we show up to our meetings on time so that we can really begin and end as a single unit together. We can be generous to ourselves by resting deeply, by eating well, by going out for a walk if your air is clean, moving your body, and just really taking care of yourself. So being generous to what you need. Knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to protect the sexuality of myself and others. And so I invite you to investigate and to know what that is for yourself. We all have different kinds of relationships, different agreements that we have with our partners. So what is it like to hold a sense of integrity and honesty, truthfulness, kindness, and the most intimate kinds of relationships that we can have? And so how do we protect the sexuality of ourselves and of others? Knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to be careful with my speech. And as we know, speech can be one of the most divisive things out there, and also the thing that can bring us together. And so as I was saying, speech can be one of the most divisive things out there, as we are seeing in our current political climate. And also speech can be the thing that brings us together, that brings a sense of unity and connection and love and deep care. And so we know that we are not away on retreat. Many of us are still home and doing our day-to-day lives. Some of you might even still be working while on this retreat. And so we really invite you to explore how to be careful with your speech, how to be gentle with your speech, how to be timely with your speech, how to be kind, which is not being nice, right? But how are we kind with our speech? to know that we are speaking truth to power, and to know when it's the right time to speak and also the right time to hold noble silence. And also knowing that what we don't say is also part of right speech or skillful speech. And so when we don't speak up when we see an injustice in this world, when we don't speak up when we see harm being done, that is moving into false speech. And so even in our silence, we can utilize skillful speech. And knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to be free of intoxicants that might for a clear mind and heart. So again, I undertake the precept to be free of intoxicants for a clear mind and heart. And so a lot of this will immediately go to things like drugs and alcohol, that we're going to be free of those things so that we can be really present and be alert for this retreat. But I'm also inviting us to look at other intoxicants like social media, news media, idle chatter, through phone, through text messages, getting really stuck, getting caught up in that. So anything that allows us to not be in direct relationship with our experience is an intoxicant. And so I invite us to perhaps lay down the news for these few days that we're together. To lay down the New York Times for a moment. To lay down social media. So that we can really be with the clear and direct, known and felt sense experience of our practice. So it doesn't get muddled and fuzzied by these external factors. And so I will take a moment to just review our precepts and take a moment again to reflect on what these mean to you. So knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to protect life. Knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to be generous. Knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to protect the sexuality of myself and others. Knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to be careful with my speech. And knowing how deeply our lives are intertwined, I undertake the precept to be free of intoxicants for a clear mind and heart. So making sure that we are free from anything that can colonize and grip our hearts and minds, guiding us towards greed, hatred, and delusion. So letting go of these intoxicants for a clear mind and heart. And there's a tenderness when we take these precepts. When we take a moment to scroll through and knowing that I am making this promise not just for myself, but also to support and protect the practice of each and every person this retreat. When we remember that we belong to each other, we begin to see with Sangha eyes and to feel with a Sangha heart. So I invite you to hold these precepts as dear as you can while on this retreat together.
So settling back into our seats. Welcome to everyone who came in the room after we did our introductions. Wonderful to have you here. Welcome, welcome. We're going to go ahead and sit for about 20 minutes as we settle into preparing to sit. For those whose eyes are still open, maybe zooming out, knowing the act of seeing is happening, bringing mindfulness to seeing, letting the eyes relax and take in the entire field. And closing the eyes, coming into the field of the body. Gentle awareness shining through the body, knowing the sitting posture, feeling the cushion and the floor, the earth holding us. Noticing any little adjustments, little shifting happening as we settle into a comfortable sitting or laying down posture. Letting the face soften, the forehead, the jaw. Inviting the neck and shoulders to soften, come into ease. Letting the belly hang soft and loose. Welcome home, welcome into awareness in the body. Kind mindfulness, curiosity about this experience of the body sitting and breathing. Inviting the awareness into the breath. Either in the abdomen, in the chest, or in the nostrils, or in the whole field of the body, wherever the breath feels alive. Can I be present with just this inhale? Just this exhale. can I relax into this moment, just being with the breath? Softening and loosening. And as the mind has the tendency to wander, inviting it to come back into the body. Welcome back, welcome home. Kind awareness of whatever is happening in this moment, in this body, sitting here, breathing. Gently guiding the mind back. Nothing to change, nothing to judge, just kind awareness in the body, the spirit embodied. Inviting the possibility of contentment with just this breath. in just this breath. inviting the mind back home if it's wandered. Inhabiting the body. Gentle, kind awareness of this experience in the moment. This moment. And this one. Opening the awareness to the entire field of the body, the edges, the posture, the gentle waves of the breath. Sensing outwards into this virtual room of friends here. All the bodies sitting and breathing. Practicing these very deep acts of care. Cultivation of kindness. For ourselves and for others. Compassion and wisdom. What a blessing to be in this field with one another. Closing with some words of the Buddha. Ananda asked him, surely Sangha, spiritual friendship, is half of the path, is it not? And the Buddha replied, no, dear Ananda, good spiritual friendship, good companionship, good comradeship is the entirety of the spiritual path. Thank you.
So we are coming or are close to the end of the beginning of our formal entrance way into the retreat. And if this was a residential retreat, then we would, some of us might choose to continue to sit or lie down and practice, and others might choose to move towards, well, it's a little early for bed unless you're in the central part of the United States or the East Coast, which some of you are, our dear friend Booker, and so call to bed. And I wanted to remind us with those beautiful refuges and precepts that it isn't only while we're all together on the screen that this retreat is living, but it's really living now in every moment that unfolds through this next week. So sometimes the habitual response to a formal ending is, oh, okay, what should I do now? Maybe I'll whatever, and just that sort of splitting the scene. And I'm saying it because we're not together, and when we're together often we get to remind each other. So I might have already split the scene, but someone is walking so mindfully to the door of the Zendo and reminds me that, oh, this invitation is to keep turning towards myself and not splitting the scene, so that I'm present, and present not just for the times of the formal schedule, but for how I am now. Like if you arrive late, maybe it's like, oh my God, it's like they're ending at 7:37 already? What the hell is going on? Or it might be, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm so happy it's come to the end. See if you can meet that. However it is right now in the ending, acknowledging that with this intention of, I'm on retreat because I want to bear witness to you, honey. I want to be there companioning you. And I know I keep splitting the scene, and that's why I've come on this retreat, because I want you to know I want to learn in a more ongoing way how to be present for you, to learn from you, to meet you in new ways outside the habitual ones of judgment or ongoing internal speaking, or of distraction. And so, because it's not a residential retreat, then we are, in a way, having taken the refuges and precepts together, we're committing to being a Sangha even when we're not on the screen. And energetically, that makes a difference. That I know that once we say goodbye to the screen, that you're still part of my community, practicing. Thank you, thank you.